Majority of the people have files and folders stored in their default document folder, and most of the time it's a mess and no one's perfect. So before we get started with file attachment rules, it's important to go over some of the best practices to stay a little more organized so a file attachment rule can easily detect when a file is being sent to the wrong recipient. You may want to set up your document folders something like this.
You may notice a group of folders for work and others for personal.
Once you have more of an organized directory structure, the file attachment rule FAR can easily identify files and who the recipients should be. For example, you may have invoices in both your customer directories Acme and Initech. If you ever accidentally attach an Initech invoice to an email designated to ap@acme.com, FAR will prompt you to let you know you're sending the attachment to someone other than the designated recipient meant for any file from that directory. Another scenario could be you may attach a personal file like legal, medical, or private documents to a work-related email, but due to the file attachment rule you've already set up, it'll flag it before the email gets out. With FAR, preventing the possibilities of minor to disastrous mistakes is a great value add for anyone or any business. Now, let's do some examples on how to configure some of these rules and give it a test run. To set up the file attachment rules, you will need to register for an account and activate the Sendlinx Outlook Addin. So over here you can observe I have two types of folders in my documents folder, personal and work. Inside work I have placed some sample customer folders. Let's use customer Acme 857 as an example. Inside the Acme 857 folder, we have some department folders and some random files we can use to create rules. For the first file attachment rule, let's create the requirement for Outlook to detect and ensure that any attachment from the Acme 857 folder will always be sent to the customer's accounts payable email address. In our case, ap@acme857.com. If we accidentally sent the email to another email address, it should alert us as mentioned earlier. So to get started, click on My Account at the top, Launch, and the Management console will appear in front of the Compose window. Click on the Options tab, select the File Attachment Rules checkbox, and click on the Add Edit button. Over here, you'll see three different criteria to choose from: prefix, suffix, and directory. For our first rule, we're only concerned with the directory criteria, and we'll use the prefix and suffix later on. So select the plus sign here in the directory field. Then select Documents, Work, and the customer directory Acme 857 and click on Select Folder. Next, we want to make sure that the rule inspects all Mail To fields in the Compose window, including to, CC, and BCC for the email address ap@acme857.com to ensure that the attachment is going to the right recipient. And click on Add. And that will add our rule. To test this rule, I will try and add a file from this directory to another email address that the attachment was not intended for, thus violating the rule, and let's see what happens. So let's send an email to ap@acme858.com instead of the authorized ap@acme857.com with an attachment. Let's click Add and then Add Files, and then let's pick dummyfile.pdf from the directory we have in the rule and click Attach, and the subject heading we'll just type in Test Rule, and for the body we will say See Attached, and we will click on Send, and you will get a warning that this recipient is unauthorized. You can choose to authorize, and it will add this email address to the authorized list in the rule and allow you to send attachments from this folder to this recipient in the future without warnings. Or you can ignore and send anyway, or cancel and fix the incorrect email address before sending it out, which can be a lifesaver. That is the behavior we want to see. Let's click Authorize and let's go to our rule to confirm that the email address has been added. So again, we're going to go to My Account, Launch, Options tab, Add Edit, and there's our rule we created. And there's the additional email address ap@acme858.com as the additional authorized recipient when sending a file from this specific directory. Next, let's create a rule where if we add any file from any folder on our computer, and if it starts with a person's name like Joe, we want it to go to Joe's personal email address only. So for the prefix, we will enter Joe, and we will make sure that we want to inspect all the mail to fields as before. And for Joe's email address, we will simply put joe@sky876.com. And now let's test this out by attaching a file that starts with Joe to another recipient instead of the authorized joe@sky876.com. So let's send an email to joe@sky877.com, and let's click add, then add files, and let's pick joe_document.pdf from just the documents folder here, and let's click attach. And subject heading, we will use test rule again, and body, we'll type in C attached, and we will click send. And you will get the warning that this recipient is unauthorized. That is the behavior you want to see. For a final example, let's do a combination of criteria. Let's just say I have a directory for a customer where most of their different types of documents are kept: invoices, estimates, contracts, etc. But sometimes I save their documents elsewhere because I may get a little sloppy from time to time, but I do remember to name the files with a constant prefix, like the name of the customer, such as Acme, and maybe a suffix to identify what type of file it is, like invoice for Acme invoices. I want to make sure those types of documents only goes to that specific customer. So let's create a rule that describes that scenario. So again, we're going to go to My Account, Launch, and we're going to go to Options tab and add edit, and let's clear off some of these rules so we can avoid any conflicts or confusion. And let's create a rule. So prefix is going to be Acme, and suffix is going to be invoice, and we need to select an operator, which is going to be and. Next, we want to select this directory here with all the different invoice related files in it. Let's click on plus, and let's select that folder. And the operator is going to be or. Next, let's make sure that the mail to fields are all selected, and we want to make sure it goes to none other than ap@acme857.com. And let's click add. So this rule will read as: any file that starts with Acme and ends with invoice, or any file from this directory, must always go to this email address and no one else in any of the mail to fields. So to test this out, let's send an email to ap@acme899.com in the to fields, and in the CC field we're going to put joe@acme899.com, and in the BCC field we're going to put smith@acme899.com. By this test, we should get an alert that all three email addresses are not authorized recipients for the two files you're going to attach. So let's click add, and then add files, and let's pick a file from the documents folder that matches the first combo criteria, and let's also pick a file from the directory we have in the rule. Okay, and before we click attach, you will notice that you'll have more than one file, and so Sendlinx is going to try and zip the file by default, but we're going to uncheck it for now and attach normally. But if you have many files and you choose to zip the files on the fly, the file attachment rule FAR will give you an opportunity to select your intended recipients first for the rule to check the email addresses prior to zipping into one file. So for now, let's click on attach, and for subject heading we're going to use test rule, and for body we're going to type in C attached, and we're going to click on send. And that is the notification that you want to see, stating that both file types are not authorized to be sent to any of the email addresses we put in across all the mail to fields. One thing we have to remember when creating rules is that try and keep your rules as simple as possible to avoid confusion or conflicts. Also, if you have a team that communicates to other organizations such as customers, suppliers, etc., you may want to create one set of master rules for everyone on your team. Once done, you can export the rules from one account by using the export function, which exports to CSV format, and import to everyone else's accounts by simply using the import function. Next, let's go back and attach the same two files, but let's zip it this time and see how the file attachment rule behaves. So let's remove the files real quick and attach the files again. Okay, and let's click Add, then Add Files. And let's pick a file from the Documents folder. And let's pick a file from the directory again. And let's click Attach. And so you'll get a pop-up asking for you to ensure all your recipients have been added, so the file attachment rule can do its checks. If not, you can review the recipients, so let's just click yes. And here we have your recipients, and in the To field, let's just add the authorized email ap@acme857.com. And let's also add in the CC field joe@sky876.com. And so we have 4 unauthorized email addresses out of the 5. And let's click OK. And that is the notification you want to see stating that both file types are not authorized to be sent to the 4 email addresses. So that concludes our tutorial on how to set up file attachment rules. For more examples, I would like to encourage you to visit Sendlinx.com and review the file attachment rules section. And also you may want to check out the FAQs as well. Thank you and have a great day.